Hi Brittany, this is Jonathan. Let me just go over real quick some of the basics of maintaining the Janet wig. Of course, this is a reasonable-ish facsimile of the wig. So first things first, of course, it'll need to be secured on the head. Let's go ahead and tuck that back. You'll notice that we do have straight pins all along the lace hairline. Do make sure that those pins are pretty much at the hairline level in the lace. You don't want it too far down on the lace because when you put tension on the wig, it can rip through. But you also don't want them too far back into the hair or they get covered up while you're doing your touch-up. So make sure that it's secured at the temple areas, at the excuse me, curve at the hairline where the front starts to curve down, and usually about 3 across the front, 1 center, 2 on the side. That way it's just going to stay in place. You can put 1 or 2 in the back if need be. You don't necessarily have to put any on the top because they would be in the way. So we're going to assume that this is the Janet wig and it was worn during a performance and you've rolled around on the floor with Frank and Rocky and everybody else under the sun and now it looks a mess. So, first things first, the whole top of the Janet wig has some back combing to it, so it's lightly teased at the base. Theoretically, you shouldn't have to worry much about that, but what that means is all of the extra hair that is kind of thick across the top that gives it poof, you don't want to brush that through. It should maintain fairly well on its own, so all you'll be doing really is taking care of the hair that is about an inch past the scalp area. So it already has some hairspray in it. You might have added a little bit more. That should be fine. It doesn't need to be washed out. The hairspray that's in it can basically be reused by once you get it back in the shape that you want it. You'll lightly mist it with a little bit of water and that will reconstitute the hairspray and reset the shape. So the materials you will need are a styrofoam head. I have a canvas head, which is actually preferable, but I know you guys probably don't have any up there. The wig itself, the pins, you will need a brush, possibly a comb, and a spray bottle. So first things first, you're going to want to take your brush. I believe Nancy said that you guys do have one of the wire-tined wig brushes up there. So what you're going to do, and I'm going to bend this down just a little bit, you're not going all the way down to the scalp with the wig because that can damage the hair and it can break the hair at the hairline. So what you'll be doing, and I'm hoping it's not quite as messy as this one is, but you'll just be lightly going through. As you can see, let me turn this sideways a little bit. As I'm pulling through, I'm only just kind of grabbing the outside layer of hair. So you're just sweeping it back, you're just lightly pulling it through. If you come across any tangles about midway through, just grab the section that is tangled. I'm going to try to get this to where you can see it. Grab the section that is tangled, separate it out with your fingers, hold it securely, and then brush out the tangles. If you just try to pull it through, you can damage the hair, damage the lace line, or even pull sections out. So once you get tangles out of the long parts, and you can grab large sections as well. So I'm just kind of pulling this out, ignoring the base of it close to the scalp, just holding it fairly securely and lightly brushing through. If you get caught anywhere and the brush won't get through, try to remove the brush and use your fingers to pull through because you can feel where the knots catch with your fingers, and that way you're not going to rip out any hair or damage it. So like my thumb is caught here where there's a little bit of a tangle, so I'm just kind of pushing it through with my fingers. So once you can get your fingers through the majority of the length, then you can just lightly brush it through. You don't have to do this all over, just where it seems necessary. Now, I am aware that once you do lightly start brushing it through, your curl is going to turn into just kind of a mishmash of puff to some degree. That's kind of okay because that's pretty easily fixable. The least you can do to it, the better. So I'm just basically getting any of these tangles out, going all the way down. Right now, of course, I'm just going to focus on this side of the wig. So I'm going to turn it this way a little bit so you can see. So I'm just lightly brushing it back into the basic shape that we'd intended. Once you have that lightly smoothed through, you're just making sure that all of the hair is going one direction. If there's any gaps up here at the scalp, that's where you can you can spray it with just a little bit of water, just a light misting. You're not saturating it, you're just slightly getting it damp. That'll help it want to stay in place and redefine the curl at the same time. So I'm just lightly going over it with the brush. The brush is not going all the way through to the root. It is just smoothing out the outer layer. Once you get past the scalp area, you can run it more thoroughly through if need be. But do remember, the more you run the brush through the length of the hair, the more curl definition you will lose. So we're going to assume that we've gone all the way through and done this to both sides. Once you've done that and you've got it as smooth as you need it on top, even though you've lost some of the curl shape down here on the sides and in the back, let me just set this like this, you can either lightly hit just the top area with a little bit of hairspray just to keep it in place. That should be enough. Don't because you don't want it crunchy. The more hairspray that's in it, the harder it will be to maintain. But that will just give it just enough extra hold to stay in place. Now, to get your curl back, it's really pretty easy. Once you've got it detangled, you can just take small sections, and you should be able to see pretty roughly just the size of each individual curl section. So we're going to assume that this is one curl area. It ends up being, give or take, about an inch by inch square area. This, I am aware, is a little bit more lengthwise, but for demonstration purposes, it should be fine. So I'm just going to take the brush and making sure this curl area is all completely combed out. Then I'm going to take my water sprayer, lightly mist the length of the hair, and that was just basically 2 squirts. And then I'm just going to wrap it around my finger. 1, 2, 3, and I'm letting go between each revolution so that way I'm not putting undue tension on the hair. I'm just reshaping it into a loop so that way the spiral of the curl will reset. Then I'm just kind of with my fingers smoothing the ends out. And you can just kind of take that massive hair that you've done, and it doesn't have to be very tight, but since we were going this way, which is essentially clockwise, if I'm holding the hair and I turn a little bit counterclockwise, it'll loosen up just enough for me to wiggle my finger out. And then I've got a loop of hair that I can just kind of let go, and I have a perfect spiral curl. So then we'll take the next section. And you don't have to do this all over the wig, just wherever it seems necessary. And usually that means primarily just kind of the outside, maybe a little bit down on the sides to the bottom. But even without spraying this section, I'm just wrapping, letting go, wrap it around, let it go, and you'll be able to see and feel the direction of the curl pattern while you're doing it. So that's really pretty easy. These ends have a tendency to get a little bit wild, so you can use your comb or your brush and just lightly smooth those out around your finger, just making sure it's all going one direction. Twist the whole thing opposite direction to release your finger, and you've got another curl. So you can just kind of do that all the way through. Of course, if the bottom needs this curl pattern restored as well, you'll want to start there first. So usually you can just take the whole top section, like say all of this, pull it back, do just a little bit of the back area first, and then move along, kind of the way you would if you were doing your own hair. So once you've got that, you can just continue working along. I'm just going to take a larger section now just to show you that even if you're grabbing a section that is bigger than the original curl set was, it'll still do what you need it to do for the most part. So I lightly misted that with water, still just wrapping it around one finger, even though this is like nearly 2 times the amount of hair. Wrap it, let go, wrap it, let go, pull that out, wrap it, make sure it's all going one direction, twist it to release, letting my finger out, and then just cascading that curl. As you can see, you've got a very big curl there. If that looks a little bit too big, you can just separate it into 2 sections, and if you need to, do it again. But for the most part, once you've got it smoothed out, you should have pretty decent flexibility to shape those curls however you need them to be. Even if you go with a section that's much smaller than what it had been, so I'm taking about half of the area that was on the first couple of curls, and it's the same sort of thing. We're not going all the way down to the root, we're just starting about 1 inch or 2 inches away from the scalp, making sure it's detangled, very light mist of water, just to primarily get rid of static more than anything, and help show the definition of the curl, but it's not really doing like a wet set, like where you wet your hair, put it in rollers and let it dry to set. This is just to give it definition and to see the shape of the curl that already exists. And taking this small section, wrap it around, let go, wrap it around, let go, wrap it around, let go. I am using my thumb to keep the curl from unraveling. Let go, wrap, wrap, wrap. Use your brush or your comb just to smooth out the edge if you need to. Make sure it's all going one direction. Twist the opposite way. Kind of wiggle your finger to get it out. If it's too tight, you can use your thumb just to get it over your knuckle. But you're just kind of trying to keep that shape in, letting it go. So that should be the majority of what you need to do, if anything, when touching up the Janet wig. The more you treat it like real hair, the more it'll behave like real hair. I'm going to turn it this way. So if you've got gaps like this in the back, you can just lightly go over it with the brush. But your first best tool is your fingers. I can do a lot more with my fingers and not have to worry about either damaging the wig or messing up the curl pattern, especially if you've lightly misted it with water. And that will, as I said before, reconstitute the hairspray. So I can even just kind of give it a little bit of a scrunch and see how it does kick some of the curl that was already in this wig back into motion. And that sort of thing should work. If you need it more defined, of course, take a section, make sure it's smooth. And I'm even just doing this just with my fingers, running my fingers through to make sure there's no tangles. Wrap, let go, wrap, let go, wrap, let go, wrap, don't get caught, let go, wrap, twist, opposite direction, let your finger out, perfect curl. I hope that helps. If you need anything else, please let me know. I'm also happy to go over anything with you on live Facebook video, so if you're having any difficulty, in most cases, it's not a bother. It could be midnight and you're still at the theater for some weird reason. See if I'm around. Go ahead and message me. I am happy to help. Please let the rest of the cast know that goes for them as well. Any issues they have, if they can't be taken care of by someone in-house, call me, text me, Facebook me, whatever you guys need. I hope you're having a great production, and let's do the time warp again.